So I wanted to talk about some of the changes, or just the kind of change that they made to Spectra as a mechanic. In that's going to come out with High Seas. I believe it's going to go live on that Friday, and it's not a huge change. There's some very small things that change with it, and the flavor of it is still the same. But also, they kind of made the flavor make a bit more sense. Notably, previously, so when Spectra Aura becomes the target of an attack, destroy the Spectra Aura and close the combat chain. Force it to go to close step. This would just close out all attacks, and that's it. And now it just destroys the Spectra, and it does not close the chain. Now, functionally, this doesn't change much. As they point out, if there's no legal target for an attack, it fizzles, and that's the way it worked anyway. We use that trick ourselves when we activate Halo and search Figment of Ravages when somebody is attacking an angel that we control. And we pop the angel in the layer step the same way that this Spectra will. So Spectra is functionally the same for our opponent, aside from something like Barbed Barrage, something that can attack additional targets. And this makes sense. If you were to attack an illusion and prism, you could have both the attacks resolve. That would make sense, like thematically, flavor-wise. Where it's like, yeah, you're attacking the merciful, but you are still attacking prism. Just the attack against the merciful is going to fizzle, and that's fine. It makes sense. And then the attack against prism will go through. This is a flavor change that I'm totally okay with. It doesn't or a mechanical change that I'm totally okay with. It makes sense. It's a little bit of a way to get around it, but it's not a cheap way. We already see that it's going to be pretty expensive. It costs an entire extra blue to get that additional target if they want to get around Arclight Sentinel. I don't anticipate this card being used to clear Pierce Reality or something like that, but this is something that like Lexi could run in LL against OG Prism or New Prism and be very happy with it. And it's not easy. It's not cheap. It's fairly similarly costed to other stuff. ALS still demands to be a target. But if this is a way they want to get around it, I think I'm okay with that. The mechanic is still very powerful. It's still very good against classes that can't declare additional targets. Which so far I'm pretty sure this is the only card that can do so. I anticipate many more. And it's still a mechanic that is weak to go wide decks anyways. But this is a neat little addition to people's toolbox. There are a couple little functional changes that come with this. They're not big, they're not common, but they are relevant, and they're lines that we should be aware of when we go into games, particularly when we go into the Aura game plans, because that's when we have the most interaction with it. One of the funny ones is this line here, which is one that I thought of when they revealed the card and did not work at the time. And I asked a bunch of people and everyone thought it worked until I asked Josh Scott, and he was like, nope, doesn't. No priority. And I'm like, But there was a similar situation that could come up when, without using Halo of Lumina Light and using our normal mechanics, and it has to do with an ALS and Merciful interaction. What would happen is on kind of in a standard kind of game, this is a pretty reasonable game state to land in. You have an ALS on the board, you have Merciful, and you have an Angel. Let's say it's Shariah. Now, you hit this all yellow hand, and they pop a Time Snap or Time Skippers, and they go to 2 action points. You can play your Arclight Sentinel in response, but it costs you 3 full yellows. It costs you 3 full cards. But if you can keep a yellow to swing Shariah, you're going to have a card going to Soul with Merciful. But if they have 2 action points, you can't really get away with just doing that. It doesn't really work. And this ALS isn't going to protect their stuff. So what happens before this rule change is they would swing their attack, let's say Titan's Fist, at Arclight Sentinel Spectra triggers. You both pass priority effectively on the Spectra trigger. ALS gets destroyed, and the game gets forced into close step, and Merciful trigger goes on the stack. Now, neither of you have priority in the close step. It doesn't. That's the way it's ruled. But you, if you can, you want to have Vestige live so that you can play this Arclight Sentinel on 2 yellows. That'd be great. That'd be super nice in this situation because they still have 1 action point. They can still go hit something, but you don't have priority yet. And you're not going to have priority in this close step because it's just going to resolve the Merciful Trigger and immediately go back to the layer step where they get first priority and they have their action point and they can attack. So you don't have a window where you can play this Arclight Sentinel off 2 yellows. And this is something that is now different because we don't get forced into the close step and Spectra is functionally closing the chain because there's no longer a legal target for the attack. It's gonna look something like this. What happens is they target Arclight Sentinel, the Spectra trigger goes on the stack. Then, still in the layer step, the Spectra destroys the Arclight Sentinel, and the Merciful Trigger goes on the stack above the attack. We're still in the layer step. There's still something there trying to resolve, and both players have priority still. So we can let the Merciful Trigger resolve. The Arclight Sentinel, the replacement effect from Merciful puts Arclight Sentinel to Soul, and now Vestige is online. And now we can play this other Arclight Sentinel off double yellow while their first attack is still trying to resolve. And this means we can stop their second attack that would clear Shariah. And we can get another turn of go. Getting around their time skippers, getting around time snap. This is not a line that's going to come up a ton, but it is a relevant one. And it's actually not something I had fully considered because I don't think I'd run into it. Or I might have and not realized it even. This is actually a line that got pointed out to me by Rhea. This is something that had come up in one of her games and it had been super relevant because it was either I get to swing Shariah and have another turn, or you just double clear my board and my turn does nothing. And this is now a tool we have access to. This is a line we have access to. This is something that we can do in a way that a Spectra interaction, like it really shows off this new Spectra interaction where we can utilize it. And this is something that I'm really excited about because it's not like crazy complicated and it's much more intuitive. It's just like, yeah, it's just in the layer step, target's gone, that's it, closes out. Spectra shows up, or you hit Spectra, thing is gone, attack fizzles. And it just kind of makes sense. It's not like it gets forced into a closed step, there's no priority, you have to like kind of, but Merciful goes in there. So like Merciful triggers can get a little, both players get to interact with Merciful triggers now because they're not going to be in the closed step potentially. So weird things can also happen there when you do like Merciful Ping Pong. So this ruling I really like. I really like this change. It's a simplification and it opens the window for a little bit more counterplay, and I'm okay with that. I'm interested to see in the Guardian Mastery Pack if there's one that gives them target additional things. That would be very interesting, and Halo of Luminalight would start to get a little more interesting as well as a result. But I really like this ruling, and there's some new tricks to learn. There's some new tricks that we need to figure out, and some of them were things that we wanted to do before. But like that line, I highly recommend you keep that in mind because it can definitely come up. So is because like that board state will definitely occur where this is like also a Genesis out. Like if you also have, like I've definitely had this board state where there's also a Genesis out here. So, yeah, I just wanted to do a quick thing on that. Give you another tool in your toolbox. Yeah. I think I'm going to be starting to go into some of the tech cards. Go back to the Prism Primer here in a bit. But first is pre-release weekend and all of that stuff. And I think I'll be able to get one more out before Nats. Or one more video out before Nats. So with that, peace.